Okay, so welcome back to video number 4. Today we're just going to review some things we went over in class on how populations change over time, and most of this then will be familiar to you all. I'm just going to use a very quick and easy animation on PowerPoint to demonstrate the concepts that we already talked about in terms of variation and competition and change over time. We'll start with the concept of variation. So imagine a population of, well, whatever you want to call them, smiley faces, whatever, and you'll see that there are differences among the smiley faces. Now, I've given you a fairly simple model here where there are some very brightly colored white smiley faces against a somewhat dark blue background, and then you'll see that there are some other variations where there are blue smiley faces that have kind of a dark perimeter around them, and an even slightly more different variation where it's the same blue background, but the outline of the smiley faces is a little bit lighter and a little bit more difficult to see in this environment. So you can see where this is going. This variation is a natural part of the population. All populations have variation. As I mentioned in class, when we look around at our fellow students, our fellow human beings, we immediately notice the variations. We notice the differences between us, and we have very little trouble recognizing the fact that we're all individuals, but we tend to overlook the variations in other animals and plants and so on. So the second part of this process involves the idea that there are limits to the size of any population. If the population keeps growing and growing, eventually something comes along and brings the population size back down. One of the key factors is predation. So in this picture, in this scenario, I'm using a bird of prey as a predator that is going to come in and hunt to eat and kill, or kill and eat these creatures that I have devised for our little simulation. And obviously the birds have their own limits to their population size, so they're competing with each other to get enough food, and so they're going to be working as hard as they can, as quickly as they can, to get as much food as they possibly can, and they will be preferentially going for the ones that are the easiest to find or to see. And in this dark background, the light colored smiley faces are the ones that are going to be the easiest for the prey to catch. But the point here is that the smiley face population is limited in size by the predators that will then hunt and kill and eat them. So given the fact that the population size is limited, the competition between the smiley faces, and I put quotation marks around the word competition here, because it's not like the smiley faces are facing off against each other and sort of fighting or competing for the opportunity to survive or to push the other smiley faces towards the bird of prey. It's competition in a more figurative sense, where the competition is between those that have just natural born variations that allow them to survive, compared to those that don't have those variations that make them more likely to survive. So the competition, in quotation marks here, is between the ones that are better equipped to avoid the predators and those that are not as well equipped to avoid the predators. From there we go to the idea, obviously, if there's competition, then there are winners and losers. And the winners are the ones that are able to avoid predators. And in this case, the winners are the ones that have a better camouflaged color against the blue background. So we have the blue of different shades are much better as a whole against the ones that are white, because the white ones stand out against the dark background. So that then allows us to call the winner, the winners then are the ones that have what we call the advantageous trait. And in the real world, of course, many times this is not a single trait. It might be a multiple number of traits, including things like speed and camouflage and behaviors that allow them to hide from predators or to detect the predators more easily than others. But we can focus on one of those traits at a time. And in this case, what seems to be the most important trait is the camouflage colors against the background. Inheritance is the next concept, and as you can see in this diagram, once the populations have had a chance to reproduce, if we go back to the winners and losers, you see that there are more winners that more of the smiley faces that are winners have a blue background. So if we want to count them, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the blue smileys have survived compared to the one white smiley face. All right, so when it comes time to reproduce, if you look at the population makeup now, you'll see that there's a lot more of the blue ones than we had before, and fewer of the white ones. That's because the ones that survive get to reproduce, and when the ones that survive reproduce, they tend to pass on their traits, the advantageous trait they get to pass on to their offspring. So there will be fewer of the ones that have the trait that's not advantageous and is in fact disadvantageous. All right, and finally, given enough time, the reproduction of the winners reproducing and passing the advantageous trait on to their offspring, that will continue over time until more and more and more of the population resembles the winners. And we could carry this out for a few generations, which I'll do next, and you'll see here that we have the population changing. We are down to 1 of the white ones, and if this were allowed to continue, the white color might be completely extinguished from the population, and you might wind up with a new population of smiley faces that looks something like this. But even here, you'll notice that there are still variations. And so now the birds of prey that are feeding on these populations will have to become more discerning. Maybe their eyesight will improve. They'll get better at detecting the subtle shades of blue against the background. So even in this situation, we might have some blues that have advantages over other blues, or the variation might be represented by some behaviors that might change as a result of the pressure now will be on the remaining blues, so they're going to have to find a way, so to speak, in quotation marks, to find a way to avoid predation. And the predators are going to have to find a way to detect the lighter colored one, the bluer colored ones that now are much better camouflaged against the background in which they live. So a summary of the terms here, we've gone over these in class. I just went over each of these during the video, but if you're watching this for the first time, you might want to write these down just to remind yourself of, to get these terms in your notebook so that you are familiar with them. Put them on flashcards or review them from time to time, because there are terms that you'll have to not just memorize the definitions of the words, but be able to apply those terms to new situations that I described to you in class, as we have done for most of this week. Okay, hope that's been helpful. Thank you, and we'll see you on the quiz.